So it's November 1986. I'm going to a bar by the Plaza Tower, New Orleans, to listen to a buddy of mine from high school. His name is Pete, and he's a drummer, and his band is playing that night. And we step outside for set break. We burn one with Pete. He goes back in, and this guy next to us turns to me. He's like, "You know Pete, the drummer?" I was like, "Yeah, between me and my buddy here, Virgil, we know probably 5 or 6 drummers named Pete." He's like, "Man, I knew this drummer. I ran into him. His name's Pete." I was like, "What's his last name?" He's like, it was a weird name, like Spanish or French, like DeFreitas. I don't really remember, but he was the best drummer I've ever seen. And he was in this band. It had a stupid name, and then they changed it. The second name was better, but the first one was like, Sex Dogs or Sex Gods or something, and they changed it to something else, Balcony Dogs or something. I don't really remember. And he was the best drummer I've ever seen. I was like, "Well, what happened to him?" He's like, "Well, I think he went back home." I was like, "Oh, no kidding." He's like, "Yeah, man, I was just, last time I saw him was like about maybe 2 months ago. And I just got off work. I brought a 12-pack over to these guys' house, his bandmates, and they're in there talking, and they had all dropped some acid, but it was bunk. They weren't tripping or hallucinating. It was just all speed. It probably wasn't even real acid. They're all, kind of wired on the speed, and they were drinking to kind of come down off it. And the subject of UFOs came up, and they didn't believe him. I was like, "Do you believe in UFOs?" He's like, "Oh yeah, they've had a few incidences." I was like, "Did you ever hear about the Mardi Gras UFO?" He's like, yeah, that flying saucer that flew over New Orleans during Carnival." I was like, "Dude, I saw it. It flew right over us. We're coming down. We pulled down a fire escape, went up on top of a building to see when the parade was coming. We're right off St. Charles and Poydras, maybe Girard Street. And as we saw the parade coming, so we were going down the fire escape. I just happened to look towards the river, and I see this fucking flying saucer coming real fast and turn, and it's coming right over the rooftop, straight down the street. I mean, I can see straight down the street to the river. And all of a sudden, this fighter jet comes and gets behind it. And right when it was coming towards us, the fighter jet sped up on it, and it slowed down. And right when it went over us, it was like tipping its wings, and it made this sound for just a second. Right over my head, I'm like watching it, and it's like tipping its wings. The fighter jet's right on, and he does that, and then it passes over, and then it goes up, and then it takes off really fast. The jet can't keep up with it. He's like, "Wow, you saw that?" I was like, "Dude, it was all over the fucking news." And a guy I know just moved next door to a pilot, and he mentioned the story. This guy was telling me some story about UFO flying over the city, during Carnival, and the pilot's like, "I was the one chasing it." And he's like, "Dude, did you ever meet the pilot?" I was like, "No, but my buddy talked to him, and the pilot confirmed the story. Our guys chased it off the coast to Jacksonville, and once it got out over the Atlantic, it just took off into the atmosphere, and it was gone in outer space. And it was all over the fucking news." He's like, "Yeah, well, let me tell you what these guys did to him." So this guy's name is Jonathan, and he's got long hair and a beard, brown hair. He's like, so they start making fun of Pete because he believes in UFOs and flying saucers. And they all turned on him. And then Pete mentioned, "Man, they actually have programs like they use radio waves to try and contact them. So they're calling them, but they might not be answering back." And then from what Jonathan said, he's like, "Man, then they really turned on him when he brought that up." And they're like, "Dude, you're crazy. You're stupid. You got to be a fucking idiot to believe in UFOs and flying saucers. It's all a bunch of bullshit. People are making that stuff up. And you think you can call them like ET phoning home?" He's like, "Yeah, actually they have a few programs around the world where they're sending radio waves in outer space to try and make contact." And Pete's like, "Man, my buddy who plays bass in my other band, his dad's an engineer. I can call him and he'll tell you that it's possible to build this technology. They're like, dude, don't call him. It's probably 4 or 5 in the morning over there. Don't call him, man. It's gonna be the middle of the night. They're gonna think you're crazy. He's like, no, it's my friend. He'll understand. So he calls his friend, and I later find out that this was Les Pattison. And he calls him, and it's middle of the night or early morning, and the guy was not happy about the phone call, and he's like, hey man, look, we're worried about you, come home. And he got off the phone. It didn't go well. And they're like, dude, I told you, man. He didn't even believe you, man. You're fucking crazy, man. Believing in UFOs and shit, And so I asked Jonathan, where's this guy right now? He's like, I don't know, man. I heard he left town. He disappeared, and no one knows where they. People say he went back home. I was like, where's home? He's like, I don't know, but I hope to see him again. He was the best drummer I ever saw. So let's fast forward to April 1989, and my buddy Virgil has gone from being a booking agent, manager for bands. Now he's a concert promoter. And he gets a phone call from a guy named James Singletary. James tells him, hey man, this drummer just moved to town, and he doesn't have a musical support network, and he wants to put together a band. Can you come check him out? Maybe you can call some of him, if you like the way he plays, call some of your musician friends who aren't in a band or who might want to be in a second band and have them come check him out. So Virgil said, yeah, we'll be over there. One of y'all jam. And he's like, we'll be playing this club Sunday night. So we go over there, and we thought it was kind of odd. It's always, the long-haired guitar player who's a singer-songwriter that wants to form a band. You hardly ever hear about a drummer wanting to form a band. So we thought this was interesting. So we go there, and as soon as we go in, we go to check him out, and he's fucking phenomenal. I mean, this guy can tear up the skins. I was standing about 5 feet from him, and he was knocking my insides out with that bass drum. He was rattling me. And as they're jamming, he never even looked at us. He's just like hitting the skins, focused. And the guitar player looks over and he sees me and Virgil, and he like nods to us, and then he goes to look at the guy on drums, and the drummer looks up like he's drumming like what? And he nods towards us, and Pete looks at me and Virgil, and then he keeps kind of looking at me, and he's playing, and I see him look back at me. And so it's set break. We go outside. James right away is like, man, I don't have any weed. Tell me you got a joint. Virgil's like, Mike has one. So I light it up. We all introduce each other, and he's like, this is my friend Pete. Pete, this is Virgil and Mike, and I shook his hand, and I was like, dude, I know your face, I know your name, but I can't place it with the band. What group were you in? He's like, I'd rather not say. And I was like, why? He's like, I'd rather not say. I was like, oh, bad breakup? Yeah. Water under the bridge, shit was said, no going back. He's like, yeah, pretty much. I was like, that's cool, it doesn't matter. But Virgil didn't want to let it go. He's like, man, why don't you want to tell us the name of your band, your old band? He's like, I just don't. And I was like, Virgil, it doesn't matter. He's here, I was like, dude, you're the best drummer I've ever seen play live. If there's anything I can do to help you, I will. He's like, okay. He's not really saying anything, and at times he's whispering to James, and James would say what he told him. And he kept staring at me, like, as we're talking, I look over at him, he's like, staring at me, and I look at him again. The second time I was like, why is he staring at me? Is he mental? Does his clock tick backwards? What the fuck's up with this dude? Then I look back at him a third time, he's still staring at me with his mouth kind of wide open, like, well, not wide open, but, and when I looked at him that third time, I was like, oh, that's that, I know you from somewhere, look, you look familiar, you look like someone I know. So he whispers into James's ear again, and James like, man, I'm sorry, we got some private stuff we need to talk about. And Pete says you remind him of one of his old friends. And I look at Pete as, really? I get that a lot. He's like, and then Pete finally started talking, and he's like, and he kind of had a New Orleans accent. He was sounding like, anybody from New Orleans? He's like, yeah, you remind me of a good friend back home. I was like, yeah, I get that a lot. You know, people always say I have one of those faces that, you know, reminds them of someone they knew. And so, you know, I asked him, do you sing? He's like, no. I asked him, do you write music? He said, no, I don't. I told him, well, that's cool, man. I got a few dozen, you know, rock songs and other stuff. When you get your band together, if you need some originals, you know, I can help you out. And he's like, would you do that? I was like, yeah. And I asked him, what kind of band do you want to be in? He's like, a rock band. I was like, no. You want to be in a cover band, or you want to be in a band that's going to, you know, perform originals and maybe record and be a recording artist? He's like, no, I want to be a recording artist. I don't want to be in a cover band. I was like, that's cool, man. I'll help you out with these songs if you'd like. And he's like, yeah, but what about the royalties? I said, well, I know how that works out. You know, if you're the songwriter and you write the lyrics and you write the music, you can get 100% of the royalties, unless the singer is generous and he keeps 50%, you know, off the lyrics for himself, and he splits the music with the other band members. That's how most of them do it. I won't even do that, dude. I like you so much. If you're in a three-piece like this, just count me in on royalties as the fourth guy. If you have 4 guys in your band, count me in as the 5th wheel. He's like, you do that for me? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, nobody ever does that. Nobody. They always take as much as they can off the top. Yeah, I'm not worried about that, man. You know, I write a lot of music. I'm not, you know, I've never really wanted to be in a touring band and all that other stuff, but I do like to write music. And whenever I see someone, a group that might have the potential to perform this song, it's like their kind of music, you know, I would turn the song over to him. And he's like, man, that's great. Nobody ever does that. You know, everyone always tries to take whatever they can off the top. So he asked me, you know, so you write music, you sing? I was like, yeah. Berta's like, he sings like shit, you know. He can play okay, but he sings like shit. He's like, oh, you sing horrible? I was like, not as bad as what he says. And Berta's like, man, you were playing the other day and you barely, you know, making sense. I was like, dude, I was actually writing a song while you heard me, you know. He said, oh, you're writing a song? Yeah, that's why it was not sounding very tight. And so, you know, we keep talking, and Virgil mentions, you know, he's not a very good singer. You know, he can play okay, he's not, but on bass, he can tear it up, and he plays bass with a pick, dude. Man, it was like tearing up this song, he was doing that. And he's like, you play bass too? I was like, well, I play a little bass. Virgil's like, shoot, man, you ought to forget the guitar and stay with the bass, man. You kick ass on the bass, you kind of suck on guitar. Man. Sorry, Mike, I know you want to be that long-haired guy with the guitar singing to the girls, but that's not you, man. You ought to play bass. You fucking tear it up. And so Pete, you know, mentioned to me, hey, man, you know, maybe you ought to consider being in my band. And I was like, no, man, we can find you bass players that have a lot more experience than me and a lot better. He's like, I don't know those guys, but I know you, and I like you. I got a good feeling about you, man. You know, just think about it. I was like, and I didn't think about it. And so time goes on, we're hanging out, we're having a good time, and we're talking, and we're out on the patio courtyard behind the bar one night, and someone comes through the doors and says, last call. And so we, you know, we all went to go get our last drinks and stuff, and I come out first. I've got 2 beers for me and 2 rum and cokes for Pete. And then Pete shows up maybe 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later, and he's got 2 beers for me and 2 rum and cokes for himself. And we laugh at each other. I was like, dude, I bought you 2 drinks. He's like, dude, I bought you 2 drinks. And we thought it was so funny, you know, that we both thought the same thing, you know, not 1 drink, 2. And so we're laughing about it. And I was like, man, let me set my beers down, you know, setting it down, drinking. I was like, oh man, I need to take a piss before they close the bar. So I put that beer with the other three, and I go to the patio doors, and they're fucking locked. I turn to the guys, dude, the door's locked. I'm looking through the window of the bars. Man, the fucking bar's empty. We're locked on the patio. And Virgil's like, what? We're locked on the patio? I was like, yeah, look. And Pete and James are like, oh, don't worry about it. You know, the night crew, the cleanup crew will be in, and they'll let us out. I was like, what time do they come in? Well, it varies, you know. If they come in early, it might be 3 in the morning. If they come in late, it might be 5. Virgil's like, oh, shoot, man, I wanted to get out of here now. I don't want to stay here all night. And so I turned to him, and I look at Pete, and I was like, Virgil, if you wanted to, you could get out of here. He's like, how? The wall's like 8.5 feet tall. I was like, well, look at the little corner of the wall, dude. You could run, you could jump off that part of the wall, you could, you know, get over the fencing part and just, you know, pull yourself over and drop down. It's only about 8.5 feet. And he's like, that's too high to go over that wall. And me and Pete look at each other, we just bust out laughing because Virgil's kind of dumpy, you know. And I was like, I could do it. And Pete's like, I could do it too, but I could actually do it like this. You know, they have the corner there. I could go off that wall, 1 foot, go off that wall, and then over the top. I wouldn't even have to pull myself up. I'd get enough height to where I'll be up on it on my waist, and I'll just drop over. And we look at Virgil and James, and they look back at me and Pete. Y'all are fucking crazy, man. Y'all are drunk. Ain't no way you can get over that wall. And we look at each other, and we're almost about to do it just to show them. I was like, yeah, you know, I don't have the right shoes. I might slip and wipe out. But if I had to, I'd get over that wall, no fucking problem. Even if one of y'all even had to give me like a foot up, I'd get over that wall. Ain't no problem. So the night's going on. We're drinking. We're getting, you know, we're probably on drink number 3. I'm finishing my 3rd beer. Light up a joint. We're in our little huddle, and all of a sudden some dude comes and stands between James and myself. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm smoking a joint. He's like, no, what are you doing here? The bar is closed. It was locked up about 1:30. You know, what are y'all doing here? And I told him, we got locked on the patio, so we just kept partying. And I handed him the joint. He takes a hit, takes another hit. Well, the doors are unlocked. Y'all can leave now. And he passes the joint around. It goes around the circle, and then it's gone. He goes back inside to get to work. So Virgil's like, my drink's gone. I'm out of here. He leaves. James, I'm out of here. And it's me and Pete. And we're laughing, and we probably sparked another one. And I was like, dude, you need to ride back to your apartment. I can give you a ride. He's like, no, man, I want to walk it. It's, you know, kind of helps sober me up, get some fresh air on the way back home. I was like, okay. So, you know, we're back in the bar, and they were so good. The bar was, you know, the first night, there was maybe 30 or 40 people in the bar, 15 out on the patio. They ended up bringing them back on Tuesday night. And they were talking about maybe having them headline on Friday and Saturday nights, because each night there was more and more people. And then by the time Thursday rolled around, the place was packed. It was like elbow to elbow. Even the patio was packed. And so the owner of the bar ended up having them be the main acts on Friday and Saturday night. So they went from just playing one night. They had one night that they were supposed to play, but because the band sounded so good, they were now playing Tuesday through Saturday night. And the place was packed. And first there'd just be a couple girls in front of Pete. And then as the place got crowded, there would be like 15 girls all huddled around his drum kit, just watching him slam those skins. And it was great. And he kept asking me, man, think about being in the band. Just think about it. I was like, man, I'm not ready for that. You know, that's a big commitment. It's like being married, you know. You got to give it 100%. Just think about it. I was like, I never thought about it. And time went on, and he's like, man, I really want you to be in the band. You know, I like the way bass sound. When people play bass with a guitar pick, especially if they're a guitar player, they sound different than other bass players. They sound really good to me. I'd really like to hear you play bass and be in the band and all that other stuff. And James is there, Pete's there, Virgil's there. He's like, man, please just think about it. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'll think about it. And I kind of looked off to the side, and then all of a sudden, flash, just like that. I wasn't there in front of them. I'm on stage playing bass, and I say to myself, I got this big shitty grin on my face. Damn, I can't believe I'm playing New York. This is fucking awesome. And I'm looking at the crowd, and it's a big music room. I can't even see the back of it. It just goes black, and the crowd's like packed, and everybody's like throwing their arms in the air, like and we're playing a really fast song. And I tell myself, man, I gotta look at Pete. And we're lined up, bass, singers like 2 feet in front of us, and then Pete's right there on the drum. He's going real fast, and he looks at me for a second, and then I'm back there. They're there again. And I remember looking at all of them in the face, looking in their eyes. I looked at James, I looked at Pete, I looked at Virgil, and everyone's staring at my face. And I was like, man, I wonder if they saw my eyes doing this, looking at everything. And then Pete says it once again, man, please just think about it. I want you to think about it. And I was like, man, I just thought about it. I'm in, I'll do it. He's like, you'll do it? I was like, yeah, I'll do it, man. I'm your bass player. And Pete put his hand up. I knew once I shook his hand, there was no going back. And he's like, man, I can't believe it, man. This is awesome. I got my bass player. I just need a guitar player and a singer, but you can probably sing. I was like, yeah, I can probably do okay. But this guy right here, he's great. Y'all have chemistry, James would join the band. That would be, that'd be nice. And James like, man, I can't join your band. I'm already in 2 bands. I was like, James, did your band sound this good with your drummer? The drummer who's taking care of his sick grandmother for a month. Did y'all sound this good? He looks at Pete, Pete looks at him, and they both say at the same time, no. I was like, y'all didn't sound this good? Oh, hell no. And he's like, Pete's way better drummer than our drummer. He plays faster. He's got, he's just better. And we never sounded this good before. And I can't, I can't quit my guys. I don't want to turn my back on them. And being in a 3rd band would just be too much. And I was like, oh, okay. So time marches on, and we're partying one night on the patio, and they say last call, and we're all, yeah, we're getting ready to take off. Everybody kind of takes off. Right as soon as they said last call, people just took off, and we were the only ones out there. And so I finished my drink. I was like, man, I'm gonna go take a piss, buy a drink, and we'll hit the road. And they're like, yeah. So I go and open up the door, and they're like, is the patio door? They were joking. I was like, no, it's not locked, man. And I go inside the bar. I take one step inside. I look around. The bar's completely empty. It's kind of dark in there. And they just have some lights on the bar for the most part. And I stepped back inside. I was like, dude, I think we're locked in here again. The bar's empty. They're like, what? Bullshit. I was like, no, seriously. So Pete comes in with me. We go in, and one of them yells, check the front door. So me and Pete go and check the front door. I check it. Dude, we're locked in here. I'm looking outside to see if anyone's out there, maybe smoking a cigarette, waiting for a ride. They could unlock the door and let us out. No one's out there. And I turned to Pete. I was like, well, here we are. We're locked in here again. He's like, that's all right. They'll probably be in about, 3 or 4 in the morning, maybe 5. I was like, well, this time it's different, dude. We got the bar to ourselves. I was like, hey, man, let me buy you a drink. So I stepped behind the bar. What can I get you, sir? He's like, rum and Coke. And so I mix him up a rum and Coke, set it down. I pour myself a draft. I walk around. I was like, I'll buy you a round. And I put my hand in my pocket, and I pull out money for 2 drinks, because we knew what our drinks cost. And Pete's like, no, man. He slides my money out of the way. Your money's no good. And he pulls out his money and puts it down. I was like, what? And he's like, no, man, I'm buying this round. Your money's no good. So I push his money out of the way, and I slide mine back. No, man, this round's on. He's like, no, it's on me. I was like, okay, well, then the tip's on me. We leave all our money on the table for the 2 drinks, and I put a tip down. He's like, no, your money's no good here. And he puts down money for a tip, and we're laughing our asses off. And I was like, come on, man, let's get some drinks for them. We bring them some drinks, and we leave money for that. And we ended up buying 4 rounds, and we left a $60 tip. We go back to, we're out on the patio again, we're burning. That same dude shows up, he just joins our little circle, and he waits for the joint to come around. Yeah, y'all got locked in again? I was like, yeah, we did. He's like, well, door's unlocked, you can leave whenever you want. He hangs out with us till the joint's gone. He's like, all right, I'm gonna get to work. Right away, Virgil and James take off. And it's the next day. I go up to the bar, and the bartender walks up to me, and he's like, what can I get you? And then the owner's like, hey man, I'm gonna take care of him. Go wait on this person. And so he comes up, and he's like, hey man, I know who you are. You and your drummer friend got locked in here again last night. And I was like, yes, we did. We thought we could get out, before they locked the door after they said last call, but I guess we just took too long. We're having too much fun. He's like, no man, it's cool. The night crew comes in here and they raid my bar every night. They've never left $1. My bartenders after work, I let them drink on the job for free, but after work, they're still hitting myself. No one's ever left a $1 on the bar. You and your drummer friend, the only people who have been in here after hours, and have bought their own drinks, and y'all left a tip. You left like a $60 tip for 4 drinks. No one's ever done that. I'm gonna tell you right now, you and your buddy, y'all got free drinks for life whenever you come here. This bar was empty until that drummer came. Their old drummer, I don't know, he was okay, he wasn't that good, but this drummer, he's fucking fantastic. And I heard that you and the drummer are like forming a band. I was like, yeah. He's like, man, when y'all get your song, you get your songs together, get your set list, and you're well rehearsed, man, come check me out. I can't wait to hear you guys. I was like, yeah, we'll do that. So it was a couple nights later. We go and we check them out, and the place is just packed, elbow to elbow. And we go out on the patio, and at set break, and Pete's got this big grin on his face. I was like, dude, what's up? He's like, hey man, got some news for you. I was like, what? Found a guitar player. And he looks at James, and I looked at James, and James like, he talked me into being in the band. And I thought in the back of my head, James probably just said yeah to get him off his back, and he's probably thinking, Pete's gonna go back home, we're never gonna see him again, it's all over. And he's safe with his other 2 bands. He didn't, betray anybody or turn his back on anyone. And I never thought James would, really stick to it. But James said, yeah, man, hey man, I'll rehearse with you guys, I'll learn the songs, but I can't hang out. I'm in 2 bands, and I got a wife and family. I can't hang out with you. I was like, I'm not gonna ask you to hang out with me. All we gotta do is play music. And he's like, all right, we'll do it. So Pete ends up mentioning, man, I'm gonna have to go home in a few days, but I got a favor to ask you. When I come back, I'm gonna need a place to stay. I was like, you can't stay with the guys you're staying with? He's like, no, they're charging me $750 for rent, and it's like a 3-bedroom shotgun. They already got like 6 other guys living there. I was like, dude, they're charging you that much? Where are you sleeping? He's like, I'm sleeping on a sofa. I was like, damn, man, that's a lot. Well, they're right on the edge of the quarter. It's an expensive rent because of their location. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, they're still overcharging you, that much to sleep on a sofa. And he's like, when I come back in town, I'm gonna need a place to stay. Can I be your roommate? And I was like, yeah. What's your budget? He's like, it's probably gonna be about $750 a month. And I told him, well, for $750 a month, I can get you a 2-bedroom shotgun apartment that's upstairs in a 4-plex. It's right on the corner of an intersection, and if your budget is $750 a month, you can have that place, 2-bedroom shotgun apartment, all your rent paid, all your utilities, and groceries paid for the month for $750. He's like, really? How much is the rent there? And I was like, it's $250 a month. He's like, really? Man, that's great. Wait a minute. Why is the rent so cheap? Because it's not in the French Quarter. Well, where is it? It's in Gretna, right next to New Orleans. You're about 10 minutes from downtown. maybe 15 minutes from the French Quarter. He's like, oh, it's that close? Yeah. But why is the rent so cheap? There's a railroad track that goes down the front of the apartments. It's not used very often, but it is a railroad. And he's like, really? Oh, this sounds like a cool neighborhood. I was like, it's an old historic neighborhood. He's like, we'll be able to jam and play our music? Yeah, they have a sound ordinance. I think during the week it's like maybe 11 or 12. But on the weekends it's like 1 or 2 in the morning. You can keep it cranked up. We'll check on it. And I was like, oh, you can give you the choice of the apartments. You can stay on the nicest one is the corner one upstairs. Is really nice. The other ones are kind of outdated. But you got your choice, the corner one or the inside one. He's like, you'd give me choice? Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you take the best apartment for yourself? I was like, well, if you're going to have your wife and daughter come, it'd probably be best if you stayed in the nicest apartment. Man, I really don't care. He's like, you do that for me? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, you're a good friend, man. Wow, this is great. I also need another favor. I might need a part-time job here because when I come back, their drummer's going to be back in with that band. I can't sit in with them and gig and make money. I might need to get like a job. I was like, I can help you out. He's like, really? Doing what? Well, the place still needs fixing up. It's an old wooden building. I'm going to need some carpentry work and a lot of painting. I can pay you $25 an hour to do carpenter work when it's needed, and I can pay you $15 an hour as a painter. He's like, really? What do you pay yourself? I said, I pay myself $10 an hour. He's like, you would pay me more money than yourself? Why would you do that? It's like, well, man, you're gonna need to send some money back home to your wife, aren't you? And he's like, yeah, I would. He's like, God, you do that for me. Man, I can't believe my luck. You're such a good friend, man. I just can't believe my luck. I came here looking to form a band. It didn't look like it was gonna go well. And then I meet you and, you got songs, you play bass, you joined my band. Now you found me a place to stay and work. Man, I just can't believe my luck. Everything just came together like really fast. And he was in town maybe for 4 or 5 days or a week before I even met him, and nothing was going well. And everyone he met, he didn't like. So I still don't know what band he's in, what he was in. I never knew the name of him. And he told me, I'm gonna have to leave in a few days. And so it was one night we're hanging out, and Pete goes somewhere, and the bass player shows up. And this is probably, they played till about 11, and it's probably about 1 in the morning right now, and or 12:30. And the bass player, maybe earlier, could be like between 12 and 12:30. Bass player comes to the back patio. Hey man, I need to find Pete. Where is he? I was like, I think he's inside. He's like, man, London just called. His whole band got back together. They need him in the studio. I was like, oh, cool. What's the band's name? And then the guy's like, oh, fuck. I was like, what? He didn't want me to tell you where he was from. I was like, oh, dude, we already heard his accent. My buddy thought he was from Canada. I told him, no, that's a London accent. That's like upper crust. He's like, yeah, don't tell him I told you. Well, it's okay. I didn't tell what band he was in. Y'all already knew he was from London. I was like, yeah. He's inside. I think he had to go to the bathroom. So the guy goes to look for him. Pete comes out, and I'm just smiling at him. He's like, what? I was like, your bass player just showed up, your roommate. He said London called, the band's back together and they need you in the studio. And he's like, he's got his, little rum and coke. It's like, don't worry, he didn't tell us what band you're in. And Virgil's like, I still want to know what band you're in. I was like, dude, don't worry about it. It'll all be revealed. He'll tell us one day. And so the guy came out and they started to whisper in each other's ear. And Pete's like, man, I got to talk to him off on the side. Sorry, man, it's private. So they're talking. Pete comes back and he's stirring his drink. He's got a big shit grin on his face. It's like, dude, I told you a couple of times, I think your band is going to call you back, and y'all are going to get back together. You're going to go back home and I'm never going to see you again. He's like, no, we're going to do this band. I don't know how long they're going to need me. It's probably only going to be for, a month or so in the studio. And then I'm coming back here, you know. I don't know exactly when I'll be back. It might be 4 weeks, it might be 6 weeks, but I'm coming back and, you know, make sure you have everything ready and my apartment and all that other stuff. I was like, sure. So it was like, could have been the second to the last night he was there. He's jamming. The weather got hot. It's the end of April, 1989, and the club's kind of warm at night now. It wasn't like it was, you know, 3.5 weeks before, you know, the beginning of April. We were outside in like jackets or long shirts, and now everybody's in like shorts and t-shirts or jeans and t-shirts. And so Pete goes out and he does his first set, you know, we take our break, and he goes and jumps on the skins for the second set, but he doesn't have a shirt on. He's fucking slamming, he's like breaking a sweat. We're just like, man, look how much he's sweating. You know, why did he take his shirt off? I never seen a drummer, you know, drum without a shirt on before. I was like, well, when your shirt's wet and it's stuck to you, it kind of restricts how you can move your arms. He's like, yeah. Dude, do you think he's on coke? That's why he took his shirt off? He was sweating so much? I was like, dude, look how hard he's working. The other guys are playing string instruments. This guy's slamming the drums under fucking light kits, man. He's sweating his ass off. I'd probably take my shirt off too. He's like, you don't think he's a cokehead, do you? And that's why he had problems with his other band. I was like, I don't think so, man. I think the guy's just hot. You know, look how much he's sweating. So show's over, and you know, Pete's cooled down. He's got his shirt back on, and you know, we're drinking and smoking on the patio. And Pete's like, man, I gotta go take a piss. You know, the set had just ended, and Pete, you know, he had dried off and put his shirt on. So I gotta go take a piss. So Virgil, you know, a couple minutes later, I'm gonna go take a piss too. I finished my beer like, you know, a minute or two later. Yeah, I'm gonna go hit the can too. So I go to the men's room, and there's like 8 guys in front of me, and Virgil's like 1 or 2, you know, in front of me. And we're kind of talking back and forth. There's somebody in between us, and there's 4 urinals on the wall, and the 4th one, the valve's broken. The water's just running constantly, and it's overflowing out of the urinal, hitting the floor, running across the floor, going down the floor drain. And then there's 3 bathroom stalls, you know, with toilets, you know, in case you need to sit down and ride the bus. So, you know, one by one, everyone, you know, goes through the line. We finally get in. Virgil goes to the 3rd urinal, right next to the one overflowing. The guy in between us got in the 2nd one. I'm in the 1st urinal, you know. So, you know, we're starting to pip. First, like, you know, what time is it, dude? I don't know. You don't have a watch? No. Have you seen a clock? Yeah. He's like, where? I was like, well, there's a water clock on the floor. We're putting the guy in between us. Is like, listen to us talk. He's like, huh? We're just like, water clock? What's that? I was like, well, the urinal is overflowing onto the floor, and the light is hitting it, creating a shadow as it's running across the floor into the floor drain. It's creating a water clock. And Virgil's like, so what time is it? And I said, it's 1 piss past midnight. We all start kind of laughing. And all of a sudden, the stall on the last fucking toilet comes flying open. It hits the wall, like a gun going off. We're like, shit, the fuck was that? And it's Pete walking out, pulling up his zipper. Water clock's on the floor. What time is it? 1 piss past midnight. And he's laughing. He walks by me and hits me in the shoulder while I'm about to zip up. Good one, dude. Water clock's on the floor. And I used that line in a song when I wrote my first song about Pete. That's the very first line. The water clock is on the floor. So we go outside, and like usual, we had a good time. And then that last night came. It could have been that night or the very next one. He's like, man, I'm heading back home tomorrow. Don't exactly know when I'll be back. It'll be 4 or 6 weeks, but I'll keep in contact with you. I was like, how are you going to do that, man? Let me give you my number. No, I'm going to call the guys I've been rooming with, and they'll contact you or Virgil. I was like, okay. And they did. Over about 2 weeks. We heard, yeah, he's there. He's settled in. He's been, you know, doing some stuff. And then 2 more weeks went by, and we got a message to meet the guys at the bar. But meanwhile, after he went home, that drummer for this group came back. And I remember going there to see him. And oh my God, what a fucking disaster. Their drummer there was something wrong with this dude. He was playing real slow, and he had goofy expressions on his face, like, I was like, damn, this guy looks like a special needs kid compared to Pete. Oh my God, they're not going to be on the billing here for very long. And right away, they got bumped off Friday and Saturday night, and then they got kicked back to just playing Sunday nights. And I remember going up to the bar that first night he was there, and the owner comes up. He's like, man, he lands on the bar. Dude, you hearing this guy on drums? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, this guy fucking sucks. Man, he can't, he's nothing like Pete. Pete was the best drummer I've ever seen. This guy fucking sucks. Man, I'm gonna let you right now. I haven't let them know, but I'm gonna let you know right now. They're not gonna be playing here much longer sounding like that. And they were bumped from, of course, being the house band to just playing Sunday nights. They played like 2 or 3 Sundays, and the owner told them, sorry, y'all can't play here anymore. Sounding like that. People come in for one drink and leave. Some people don't even finish their drink. They carry it out the door. That's how bad you guys sound. Sorry, I have to let y'all go. And they stopped playing there. And then, we get another call to, head to the club. I think it was a Saturday night. They had one of the local well-known cover bands playing there, bands that we're familiar with. And we're out on the patio, and whoever's bringing us the message is supposed to meet us out there. We thought it was going to be the bass player that was jamming with Pete. And me and my buddy Virgil are out there, we're smoking a joint, and then some guy with long brown hair and a beard comes up and he kind of peeks at our face. He's like, oh, it's you two. I was like, oh, dude, Jonathan. Virgil, you remember him? We met him like when we were checking out my buddy Pete, drumming over by the plaza. He's like, man, I can't believe it's you two guys. Here I am. I'm coming here to deliver a message from Pete DeFreitas, and I met you guys like 2.5 years ago, and we were talking about drummers named Pete, and I told you about Pete DeFreitas. This thing's come like full circle, I was like, yeah, it's fucking crazy like that. So what's the news? He's like, well, Pete, he told me make sure everything's together. And I was like, yeah, we got everything all lined up. The recording studio, free recording sessions. The engineer will do everything for free as long as he gets points on the album. He said, when we come in to record, we got to bring him a quarter ounce, whether we're recording for 1 hour or 12 hours. That's the payment. And bring him a quarter ounce a week. And the guy's like, oh, that's a pretty good deal, man. Pete's gonna be happy with that. Well, he's ready to go. I was like, oh, is he all fired up? And he's like, oh, he was fired up all right. I was like, what do you mean? He was fired up pissed. Like, you mean like fired up pissed off? He's like, yeah, the guys did something to him. He doesn't want me to tell you about it, but they lied to him. And everything's not what he thought it was. And he said he can't wait to get back here. And as soon as he hits the ground, we're going to be jamming. I was like, cool. It's like, well, as soon as he gets back here, the first thing we're going to do is, and Virgil's like, rehearse? I was like, no. It's like, go over the songs. I was like, no, first thing we're going to do, the very first night he gets back, we're going to go out and tie one on and drink some fucking rum. I know that's what Pete's going to want to do, because that's what you do in a situation like that. You go out, you get that shit over with, and then you get serious with the music. Virgil's like, nah, I think he's going to want to get serious with the music, and when everything's over and it's all done, then he might want to go tie one on. And so we go over to Jack Barry's house, who's a recording engineer. Not the one who's going to do it for us. Well, we're going to have this guy, Richard Burt, be our recording engineer. So we go over to Jack Barry's house. He worked with a lot of big names. One of them was Whitney Houston on her world tour. And he's like, oh, Mike, I heard you're going to be in that band with Pete. I was like, yeah. He's like, man, that's a trip, man. You're going to be jamming with Pete DeFreitas. I was like, yeah, Pete DeFreitas. He's like, yeah, Pete DeFreitas, the drummer of Echo and the Bunnymen. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, Pete was the drummer for Echo and the Bunnymen. You didn't know that? And it's like, well, he didn't tell us that. And I look at Virgil and I think silently in my head, no echo. And then I say to Virgil, no echo. And Virgil's like, oh, dude, that'd be a good name for the band. Wait a minute. The Bunnymen's like your favorite group, and you've always gone on about this drummer being the best drummer you ever heard on a recording, and this kind of music. He's your favorite drummer, and you didn't know what band he was in? I was like, dude, No, I told him I knew his face, I knew his name, but I couldn't put him with the band. He's like, you got all their albums though. I was like, dude, I got the first 4 albums on cassettes. Their pictures are like little tiny 1/4-inch squares on the cassette. He said, but you got that Gray album, their last album. I was like, yeah, but Pete's sideways on that. You can't see his face. That's why I didn't recognize him. If he'd have been facing forward, I'd have fucking known it. But when you're looking at little pictures that are like, you know, a 1/4 inch or less than a 1/2 inch big, you know, it's hard to remember how someone looks. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, God, I can't believe it. Your favorite drummer asked you to be in a band with him, and now you're in a band with Pete DeFreitas, the drummer. That's fucking crazy. So time marches on, and I'm on my way to Virgil's house, and I hear on the radio, the drummer for Echo and the Bunnymen, Pete DeFreitas, has died in a motorcycle accident right outside London. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe it. So I go to Virgil's house, and all I can think about is his wife and kids. And Virgil, you know, I knock on the door, says, come on in, man. It's unlocked. I sit by him on the sofa, MTV's on, they've been playing, you know, various Bunnymen videos. They played Killing Moon on the radio, and just like that, it was over. And I feel lucky to have known him. Times I feel guilty that I've lived this long. I've had more kids. I got to see them all grow up. I've had a good life. And he died at age 27, so young and so tragically. Some old lady pulled out in front of him in his motorcycle, and he never had a chance. He died on the scene. And I know if things would have turned out differently, we would have had a really nice sound. But he joined the 27 Club that day, and I'll never forget him. He was my favorite drummer. He was a good friend. And even though I only knew him for a month, I really grew to love the guy. He was a great guy. Cheers for 34 years.